Hello and welcome to our review of Veronica Mars. I'm Paul,
And I'm Dave.
and this week we're discussing the episode A Trip to the Dentist.
Ew.
David found out what that meant.
Yeah. Yeah. And,
Uh,
and unfortunately, by the end of this episode, everyone else shall as well.
yes. This episode originally aired May 3rd, 2005. So let us start off with video games released at the time. So, April 27th, if you had a PS2 or Xbox, you could pick up Motocross Mania 3.
And understandable, but still seems kind of like the typical racer that's trying to get some of the gimmicks there, but still just, nothing too crazy.
Also on April 27th, if you had a PSP, you could pick up NBA Street Showdown.
Supposedly, yes, though I question whether or not this was technically the basketball game or technically the wrestling game.
No, I think it's like a handheld version of NBA Street Volume 3.
Ah, okay. Again,
Uh,
the particular picture that they had showed just sort of immediately brought to, oh, the basketball game that this disguised itself as a wrestling game.
I don't know what you'd be referring to, but no, the NBA Street games were fun though. They're very
Hmm.
arcadey and like pick up and play friendly.
Hmm.
Also on April 27th, if you had a PS2 or Xbox, you could pick up Predator Concrete Jungle.
Interesting concept, though sadly it probably wouldn't have been that great at the time, possibly.
I feel like this is one of those games that's underrated. Like
Hmm.
that nobody remembers it, but it was actually kind of decent. Or at
Hmm.
the very least, it was like fun because you played as the Predator and could just go crazy on people.
No, never hurts.
May 1st, if you had a Game Boy Advance, you could pick up this little game called Pokemon Emerald.
Yes, the version that everyone wanted, but since it's released from now, it has not released ever again. So sad.
May 2nd, if you had a Game Boy Advance, you could pick up Pac Man Pinball Advance.
Yeah, again, understandable. Always with a Pac-Man game coming up every so often.
Yeah, I don't know who decided. I don't even know what that game is. May 3rd, if you had an Xbox, you could pick up Forza Motorsport. Not a big Forza fan, Dave?
It's a thing that exists. I can understand it perfectly well, but it is just not my thing.
This was like Microsoft's answer to Gran Turismo.
Mm.
Also on May 3rd, if you had a PSP, you could pick up Hot Shots Golf Open T.
Again, understandable, but also the case of just the game was released in most other PlayStation games, and they needed to get it out on the PSP. So, same concept of the idea, but far, far simplified.
Moving on, still on May 3rd, if you had a PC or Xbox, you could pick up Pariah, which is a game I have no memory of.
Yeah, I got nothing. Like, supposedly I thought it was something, but seeing even from the box art, it's like, yeah, no.
Yeah, I don't know. Apparently, it's inspired by Unreal 2, so okay.
Mm.
And finally, on May 3rd, if you had a Nintendo DS, you could pick up Puyo Pop Fever.
Yes, because that was a thing. And
Yes.
still most likely is a thing, but just kind of like, I know it exists, but it's just, yeah, I mostly just know Tetris. Sorry.
Yeah, I really love the Puyo Puyo Tetris. I've played that a bunch.
Hmm.
But anyway, moving on to the number one film at the box office this week, Dave. Any idea what it could be? You referenced it last week.
Mm. Shoot, just with the time gap. Uh, like supposedly the thing that was my mind was Star Wars, but now I'm not sure now.
Star Wars was later in the month. This was another sci fi, but more of a comedy, with The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yes. With all the particular things from then. Hmm.
Yes. And as I said in the previous video, if you haven't read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, go read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's very, very good.
Hmm.
And see the movie, because the movie is fun too.
Yeah, very true.
Yes. And finally, number one song in America this week, Dave. Any idea what it could possibly be?
Is it at least different from last week?
Yes.
Intriguing.
Any ideas?
Though still a marvelous case of with the artists at the time and what I was most likely listening to, no idea, sadly enough.
It's Hollaback Girl by Gwen Stefani.
No, that tracks.
Yep. And now a bunch of people are going to have that song stuck in their head because it's a frickin' earworm.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Yeah, you apologize for nothing.
No, I don't. Anyway, moving on to the episode. So, we start off in Havana, Cuba, where we see Keith surprising a now bearded Duncan, who denies killing Lily. At school, Veronica avoids Logan, but that night Logan shows up at Veronica's door. Logan apologizes for owning the GHB before Veronica informs him about her assault. Logan denies being the person who assaulted her, but Veronica says she'll punish whoever it is, even if it's Logan. Veronica talks to Meg about the party, and she mentions seeing Veronica being harassed by some boys before she left. Keith returns Duncan to the Canes before threatening Clarence Weedman. Veronica approaches Luke about a trip to Tijuana to pick up some GHB. He admits getting the drugs, but says he gave them to Dick Casablancas. Luke states that Madison Sinclair was seen writing slut on Veronica's car after the party. Veronica confronts Madison, who says that she defaced Veronica's car because she made out with Dick, her boyfriend. However, Veronica doesn't remember this instance due to the effects of the drugs. Veronica attempts to barge in on the fight between Keith and Alicia over Wallace's involvement in the Weedman case, but her intervention does nothing to defuse the situation. Veronica talks to Casey, who confirms the makeout sessions with Dick and Cassidy, and tells her that Veronica was also forced to make out with Shelley for the boys' amusement. Veronica talks to Sean and tells him about the girl-on-girl event and that Dick and Beaver took her over to a bed and argued about who should. Well, look, in the plot synopsis it says have sex with her, but look, it's assault. She's unconscious.
Yeah.
Veronica talks to Dick, who presents a different account of events, saying that they didn't drug her and that they found Beaver with Veronica already. Veronica approaches Beaver, who gives a set of events more similar to that of Sean. However, after Dick and Sean leave, he purports to have run away and vomited before he could bring himself to do anything. Keith says that he has to leave for an engagement in Vegas. Logan talks to Aaron, but Aaron does not know Logan's birth date. Veronica talks to Carrie Bishop, who says that she saw Veronica having sex with Duncan. Veronica confronts Duncan, who denies the assault accusation and remembers comforting Veronica in her drugged state. Duncan says that the sex was consensual, but was nevertheless ashamed because he knew that, confirming Veronica's fears, they were siblings. Distraught, Veronica finally shares with Wallace everything that she knows. Keith calls a prostitute in Vegas for an unknown reason. While Veronica apologizes to Logan, and he tells her about the situation with Duncan. Back in Vegas, Keith talks to the prostitute Cheyenne about Abel Kuntz, as Cheyenne and Kuntz were together at the time of Lily's murder. Veronica and Logan go into his darkened house, kissing, only to realize too late that Aaron is throwing a surprise party for him, meaning that virtually the entire high school now knows that they are a couple. In response to rudeness from Dick, Logan announces that anyone who has a problem with Veronica can leave. To Logan's surprise, Duncan abruptly exits the party. Madison acts friendly and gives Veronica a cocktail, but Meg warns Veronica against drinking it because Madison has likely spat in it, a treatment Madison calls a trip to the dentist.
Again, ew.
It is disgusting. Veronica confronts Madison, who admits that at Shelley Palmer's party, she gave Veronica a trip to the dentist of her own, unbeknownst to her, drugged drink. Unable to lock his car, in a, unable to unlock his car, Duncan flies into a rage and starts smashing it. Upon coming upon him unraged, Meg chastises him and accuses him of still loving Veronica. Logan and Veronica start kissing, but Logan stops to admit his role in Veronica's assault at Shelley Palmer's party. Hoping simply to get him to relax, he gave Duncan a drugged drink. When Logan leaves Veronica alone to get some alcohol, she notices the camera in the ceiling fan. She investigates further and finds a hidden monitor and recording, suggesting that Logan was in the habit of using them to secretly record his sexual conquests, and perhaps had planned to film Veronica. She leaves, and Weevil gives her a ride home. Arriving home, she discovers that her mother has returned and is sitting with her father. So, what do we think of this episode?
Well, I suppose just to get this main thought of the particular episode out of the way. Firstly, just a multitude of ew, not just the discovery of the title name, but just the running through the backstory of how everything went wrong. Gosh darn, ew. Just.
Yes, there's a lot of really gross behavior in this episode, but it is also, like, high school students, so, like, there's a certain amount you're going, like, yeah, you're a dumb high school student, you probably did dumb shit. But there's a lot of it where you're like, even as a high school student, you should know that that's not fucking okay.
Yeah, with any of those particular things, just...
Yeah.
And then, of course, with the episode coming with... names are escaping me, but the supposed confirmation that Veronica is part of the Kane family and whatnot from there. The discovery of cameras and whatnot within the ceiling fan, the recording system and whatnot from there. And then Veronica's mom also coming back to add on to the situation. Just, ugh, all the additional things to, ugh.
So, do you think that we're going to have a happy season finale?
I'm supposing it comes to asking about what sort of level of happy are you talking about, because if we're thinking like the typical happy endings, like we're not getting that. Like, are we gonna hope that this is gonna end up in a decent enough situation without someone supposedly getting killed, kind of on the razor's edge, maybe? But with how things are sitting, I'm not quite sure.
Okay, so I will tell you one thing about the season finale. You will find out who the killer is. They're not going to drag this on to next season. We will get a resolution to that.
Alrighties.
Yes. Oh boy. Okay. So, if there's nothing else about this episode, next week we're discussing the final episode of season 1, Leave It to Beaver. I'm not going to tell you anything about this episode because I can't risk spoiling anything.
No, it's understandable.
Other than to say a whole bunch of shit's going to hit the fan.
That, I suppose, is also understandable, especially with how things have kind of been ramping up with a couple of things.
Oh, yeah. So until next week, I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.